So the Lord of Hatred expansion for Diablo 4 has come with some pretty strong glitches that you may or may not have heard about, a lot of which have been known since the first couple days of the expansion. They just haven't been widely known within the community. You've probably heard about the pit glitch that was recently patched, where you could infinitely level up your glyphs by just doing one pit run. So you could go in, do this glitch, and you could just click the upgrade button until your glyph was level 150. That was recently patched. That was something I also knew about since the first couple of days. That was definitely something I didn't really want to make a video on because it was so incredibly strong. That was veering into the they might suspend you or ban you for using something like this. But then we have the glitch I wanted to go over in this video that has also been known since the first couple days of the expansion. And I originally didn't really want to make a video on this one either because I thought it was incredibly strong. But as we've progressed more and more into the game, this glitch has just kind of been proven to not be near as strong as I originally thought it was. And we know with the next big patch on May 13th that they are not going to be patching this. There was no mention of it, and a lot more people in the community have started to learn about this. So I want to give you guys the information so you can use this glitch if you want to as well, because I think a lot of other people are already using it now. Now, the glitch I'm talking about is a way to infinitely farm nightmare dungeons with a specific nightmare dungeon affix through the Warplanes system. There is a bit of a grind to actually get the affix that you can infinitely farm, but once you get the one you're looking for, you can actually infinitely farm a nightmare dungeon with a specific nightmare dungeon affix, which obviously, if you get something like a treasure breach, could be incredibly strong. As we go into this, you'll know why I think treasure breach actually isn't the strongest affix to use with this glitch. And this glitch is actually incredibly easy to use. So when you go choose your next Warplanes playlist, choose as many nightmare dungeons as you can. And once you get to a nightmare dungeon in your playlist, you're going to use the free key they give you. You've probably come across this, that if you're trying to do a keyed piece of content from your Warplanes playlist, it'll just give you the key, or it'll more specifically just start that activity for you. So if you have an Infernal Hordes run and you don't have a key, you just teleport to the Infernal Hordes and it'll give you a 6-wave run for that. If you're doing a nightmare dungeon, it'll just give you a random nightmare dungeon with a seemingly random nightmare dungeon affix. But that's where the glitch comes into play, because once you get to a nightmare dungeon on your Warplanes playlist, even though it seems random, the affix that it gave you will always stay until you complete that nightmare dungeon in your Warplanes playlist. So let's say you get to a nightmare dungeon in your playlist, then you teleport to the dungeon using the free key they've given you, and you check at the top left, which you just check on your map, and it'll show you what that nightmare dungeon affix is. That nightmare dungeon affix will stay until you complete that part of the playlist. So let's say you get to a nightmare dungeon in your playlist, you teleport to the dungeon, and you see the dungeon has the Forgotten Wisdom affix in it, where you kill enemies, they can give additional XP globes, and you can find the XP shrine within that dungeon. You can go through that dungeon and do anything you want besides completing it. So just don't kill the boss at the end. Let's say you go through that dungeon, you kill everything, you get your XP shrine, then all you're going to do is teleport back to wherever you have your teleport set. And once you get out of the dungeon, you're going to go to your map and you go to your quest log, and there is a reset dungeon button at the bottom. You probably used this before. So you reset your dungeons, it will reset that nightmare dungeon, but it will not change that nightmare dungeon affix. And it will also seemingly randomize the dungeon it sends you to next. So after you've gone to town, you've reset your dungeons, you're then just going to go to your Warplanes playlist button and teleport to Nightmare Dungeon again. It will send you to a random Nightmare Dungeon. It could be the same one, it could be a different one, but no matter what dungeon it sends you to, it will have the same affix on it in a new uncleared dungeon. So keeping with this example, you cleared that first dungeon with the Forgotten Wisdom affix in it, you went back to town, reset your dungeons, teleported back to a dungeon using your Warplanes teleport. It will send you to a new dungeon with the Forgotten Wisdom affix on it. Now you can go clear through that new dungeon again, just not fully complete it, so don't defeat the boss at the end, and you can rinse and repeat to do that, and it will keep the same exact affix. So in this example, it's Forgotten Wisdom. If you want to keep farming more experience, you can keep doing this one. Let's say you instead got a treasure breach affix, which is incredibly rare and may not even be worth trying to farm for it. But let's say you got a treasure breach affix, you could infinitely farm a treasure breach dungeon. I don't actually know if you could get a mythic prankster affix specifically through the Warplane system. I haven't seen anywhere confirm that, but even if you could, it would be so ungodly rare that you would probably never come across that. But any of the other affixes that aren't super rare, you're just kind of rolling the dice to get one of those. But any of the other not as rare affixes, you shouldn't have a super hard time to actually farm to get. Like, let's say you want to go farm gold. Well, you could farm through your Warplanes and through the Nightmare Dungeons until you get to a Nightmare Dungeon that's giving you, say, the gold reserve affix, and you could go in there, open up all the chests for all the gold, leave there, reset dungeons, teleport back in. It'll give you another dungeon with that same affix to be able to infinitely farm gold through that. Now, if you don't like the affix it has and you're looking for a different affix, you have to complete that Nightmare Dungeon on your Warplanes playlist and then go to the next thing until you get another Nightmare Dungeon. So if you say don't have another Nightmare Dungeon on that specific Warplane playlist, you have to complete it all and then go back for your next selection at the table and try to get more Nightmare Dungeons through that. So in this way, you can essentially infinitely farm different Nightmare Dungeons. So in that way, you can actually farm for the affix you want. So let's say you get a Warplanes playlist with 3 Nightmare Dungeons on it. You got to do the first Nightmare Dungeon and it doesn't have an affix you want. So you complete that one. It takes you to the next Nightmare Dungeon. That next Nightmare Dungeon is a different Nightmare Dungeon. It will have a different affix, or it can have a different affix. It'll randomly give you another affix for that one as well. And let's say that second one doesn't have an affix you want either. Go through, complete that dungeon. Let's say you get to the third one and it has the affix you want. Let's say it has gold reserve on it. Well, now you can just infinitely farm that one. But let's say you're looking for an affix that those 3 Nightmare Dungeons in your playlist didn't give you. Well, now you're going to complete that whole playlist of 5 activities. When you go back to the table, choose as many Nightmare Dungeons as you can for the next playlist and try to get the affix through that. That is how you actually re-roll the affix that you can then infinitely farm if it's the one you're looking for. And again, to infinitely farm it, all you need to do is not fully complete the Nightmare Dungeon. Don't defeat the boss at the end. And once you've farmed up everything out of the dungeon you want to, again, teleport back to town, reset dungeons, teleport back in. That's all you're going to be doing. And as you may have guessed, because this is specifically through the Warplanes playlist, specifically using the free keys they give you, you cannot do this with a Nightmare Dungeon key you use yourself. You cannot infinitely farm a Nightmare Dungeon that you opened a key to do. It can only be through this Warplane system. That's why if you're looking for a specific affix, you have to keep going through and going and doing new Nightmare Dungeons until you get the one you're actually looking for through the Warplane system. Now, like mentioned, you do have a chance to get a treasure breach through this that you can infinitely farm. But while treasure breaches are decent for just like overall loot, I actually think that there are other Nightmare Dungeon affixes that are much better to farm for pretty much everything. Because unless you say get like a mythic goblin within that Nightmare Dungeon, which is a super low chance to have happen, I think other affixes are actually better for target farming. If you're looking for experience, go try to get one of these with Forgotten Wisdom. Every single one of those random globes that drop from defeating enemies within a Forgotten Wisdom Nightmare Dungeon gives you a lot of experience. For me, it's giving me almost 1.8 million experience, so I can go do a Nightmare Dungeon in like 5 minutes and get like 50 or 60 million experience, maybe even more. Well, let's say you're looking for gold. Well, you can cycle through these Nightmare Dungeons to try to get the gold reserve affix, and once you get it, you can just infinitely farm that dungeon and just infinitely open up these gold chests to make a ridiculous amount of gold that'll probably be the best gold farm in the game, and it'll also be much more consistent than say trying to farm a treasure breach and maybe coming across some of the gold goblins to give you gold. Now let's say you're looking for a well-rolled item in a specific slot. Well, one of the best ways to do that is actually to Obel's farm, because you can just buy items of that one specific slot from the Obel's vendor and you're having a much higher chance to actually get a well-rolled item for that specific slot. Well, you now just fish for a Nightmare Dungeon with the Obel's affix on it. You run around that Nightmare Dungeon opening all the Obel's chests, which will probably give you multiple times the cap of Obel's in one dungeon, and most likely give you a lot more than that. And then you can just infinitely farm that for Obel's for specific items for specific slots. And because this affix is going to be around for a bit longer, it seems, because we already have the patch notes for the patch on May 13th, there was no mention of fixing this. Because of that, I will be doing videos in the future going over how to best utilize some of the more easy easy to obtain affixes through this system. There's actually some pretty ridiculous farms you can do not tied to treasure breaches on affixes that are just much more commonly obtained, and how to infinitely farm them to get some pretty ridiculous amount of items or specific things you're looking for. Because with all of the new systems with this expansion, specifically target farming certain things is actually some of the best things you can do. If you're looking for a specific unique that's really hard to get, well, you could potentially do it through this glitch using some of the new systems. Are you looking for a specific piece of gear? We went over that you could use obols for that. Are you looking for gold? You can use one of the things I went over in the past to massively increase your gold and infinitely farm, say, a gold reserve affix through this system. So there are many uses for this glitch, but that's all I want to go over. So thanks for watching.